I've been using a Whoop for nearly 6 years now. It's been tracking every night's sleep, every workout, every time I've been run down, all the stressful times, all here on my wrist. But Google have just released something new that's made me question whether I should just throw my Whoop away. The Fitbit Air, it tracks all the same things, but one key difference. It costs just £85 once. No subscription ever. I've been paying £169 a year for my Whoop. If I keep my subscription, am I just wasting my money? So that's what I'm going to test. Will the Fitbit Air make me switch? Let's find out. My gut says that Whoop is going to be better, but that could just be 6 years of loyalty speaking. And loyalty isn't enough these days just to keep me paying that price. So I'm going to find out properly. I'm not testing whether both give me exactly the same numbers, because they probably won't. What I'm looking for is trends. So when Whoop tells me that I've taken a dip in my HRV, does Fitbit Air say the same? And when it says that I've slept a certain amount, do both devices agree? I'm going to be testing the Fitbit Air for the next 2 to 4 weeks, and there's a few things that it actually has to prove to me. 1, is the data actually accurate enough to trust? 2, does it give me enough information to act on? And 3, does it give me the same in-depth insight that will allow me to change my behaviour? And if it fails any of these, I will tell you. Here's the honest version for why I've been paying for Whoop for so long. 6 years ago, I knew that my sleep wasn't in the best position. I knew that I was probably drinking a little bit more than I should have. And I knew I could be getting more out of life. I could be getting more out of training. And Whoop didn't fix any of that directly. It just showed me the data. It showed me that I was consistently undersleeping. And once I could see it in black and white, week after week, it's pretty hard to ignore. It also showed me what alcohol was doing to my recovery. My HRV numbers would absolutely tank, and it would take several days for that to get back to baseline again. And it caught me getting run down before I even knew it. The numbers started shifting, and it's pretty hard to argue with your own numbers. This is what the data over 6 years looks like. You can see periods where I've been consistent. You can see periods where there's clearly something been going on in my life. I want to walk you through what I found out in the first few weeks. Let's just have a little look at the build and the fit. And the thing that you'll probably notice is one is a lot thinner. So the Fitbit Air is a lot thinner, but that's just personal preference. The other thing is we have the clasp. So the Whoop basically has this clasp and it fits really nice and tight and snug to our wrist. But the Fitbit Air is more of a Velcro effect, and it feels like it could wear over time. It could become a little bit less snug, and this may affect the actual accuracy of the device over time. When we actually look into the data a little bit deeper and we compare HRV, we compare sleep, we compare resting heart rate, and the thing that I'm finding is from a sleep point of view, the Fitbit Air basically gives us a little bit more sleep each night compared to the Whoop. So on Monday the 8th, the Fitbit Air said 8 hours and 1 minute, whereas Whoop said 7 hours and 47 minutes. And that pattern continues for the rest of the week, other than one day where Whoop had more sleep than the Fitbit Air. And you can see that pattern a little bit better in this bar chart. And I'd be more inclined to believe Whoop's data just because it's been a little bit more rigorously tested compared to the Fitbit Air. But saying that the average difference of sleep across the whole week was only 22 minutes. And you can see from the HRV trends as well that they're fairly well correlated, with the pattern being almost identical. But the thing that we want to take from the data is that the trends match. So when it says I've slept more, both devices agree. And when it says I've slept left, they're both in agreement as well. When resting heart rate goes up, because I've been ill, for example, they both go up. And when it comes back down to baseline, they're both showing that trend. So from a trend point of view, the Fitbit Air looks like it's accurate enough. If we look at the app, they're both customizable. But the thing that I'm noticing is that the Whoop gives me lots more data. It also presents it in a far better way. And that might just be because the Fitbit Air app is new to me and I'm not as familiar with it, but it definitely feels like the Fitbit Air has 2/3 less data on it. But is that necessarily a bad thing? Because there's a lot of the data points for my Whoop which I don't actually need, and the Fitbit Air has that 1/3 which I actually need, and I would have needed to be able to make changes over time. So there's some features which Whoop has and Fitbit Air doesn't. So there's a cool feature such as journaling, which can help you identify trends over time. For example, if you go to bed before this time, how does it affect your recovery? If I'm drinking this much, how does it affect my recovery each day? And there doesn't seem to be at the moment. a journal function on the Fitbit Air. Obviously, this has had 10 years of development, so a few updates time, maybe the Fitbit Air would have something like that. And I think the journal tool is something really cool because it shows you data of how things can correlate. And, you know, if you start seeing a trend of when I drink alcohol, this starts to tank my recovery, this starts to tank my HRV, you know, or if I'm getting this much sleep, my recovery seems to be this much higher. It starts to put something in our head, starts to make us think maybe I should change my behavior. Right at the start, I set myself 3 questions. So let me answer them now. Is the data accurate enough to trust? Well, the trends definitely match from the two. You know, sleep goes down on both devices. HRV goes up, it goes up on both devices. So I think it is accurate enough to trust. Number 2, does it give me enough information to act on? I get all the things that I need. So the Fitbit Air gives me my HRV, it gives me sleep tracking, it gives me my resting heart rate and a few other metrics as well. All the crucial things to be able to change behavior. Yes, the Whoop has more data, but I don't think you actually need all of that data. Fitbit Air has the third of the data which you actually need. Number 3, does it give me the same in-depth data that allows me to change my behavior? And as I said just before, it doesn't have quite as much data, but it gives you all the data that you would actually need to look into trends to be able to change your behavior. And I think it also asks another question. Do I actually need all the data that Whoop gives me to be able to change my behavior? Or would Fitbit Air suffice? And my real honest verdict of both of them is that they're both good. But the Fitbit Air definitely feels like a cheaper, more primitive version of the Whoop. The Whoop is probably better in every single area, but that doesn't mean that the Fitbit Air is bad. Like, it still gives you everything you need to be able to act on. I think if you take into account the cost, Fitbit Air is just going to cost you £85 once, whereas Whoop over a 5-year period is going to be upwards of £800. But the Fitbit Air does everything you need. Okay, it doesn't have all the bells and whistles yet. It's not quite presented in as easier to read fashion, but it is still good enough. And I think there's plenty of areas in life where, you know, for example, when we buy a car, sometimes we buy the cheaper car, which doesn't have all the mod cons, but it still does all the things that we need. I think for myself, because I already have 6 years worth of data on the Whoop, I'm probably going to stick with the Whoop. But if I was redoing my decision 6 years ago, I think I'd definitely give the Fitbit Air a punt. If this was useful, hit subscribe. We put out content on training, performance and health regularly. And if you're based in Bristol or anywhere in the world, we offer coaching which uses this data to be able to inform your training to get you better results. See you on the next one.